How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.
My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts. This is Jonathan Gillum, and this is The Experts on Facebook Live, Twitter, and sort of on YouTube. Right now what I'm doing is I'm sharing this show, which you should be doing as well. Make sure that you're retweeting it, sharing it on Facebook. Let's get it to as many people as we can, because as you know, they're either shadow banning us, trying to make money off of us somehow, even though they're telling us that this is free, or they just hate conservatives and they don't spread the word. They don't give us our ability to meet the news feeds. So it's up to you to share it, to retweet it, and yeah, we'll go from there. So today what we're going to talk about, I'm not going to stay on here very long. No, I'm not saying I'm feeling bad again, but I'm not feeling the greatest today. This flu, I'll tell you what, it's back and forth. So I don't want to push it. Not that the show is a lot of effort, but it does get me worked up. So let's go ahead and start, and I'll talk about what we're going to talk about. So, I did a last night. I told you after I was on the show, I was going to be on Breitbart, the show that they have at night on SiriusXM Patriot Channel, and we talked about the text messages that had come out yesterday, and exactly what was coming out in these text messages with Strzok and Page, the disgraced FBI employees. And, the biggest thing I was trying to make a point to those people that were the hosts of the show is that, and it's unbelievable. I got to tell you, it's unbelievable the low numbers that we have on this show now. We were having 300 people at a time watching this show with 20,000 views, and at one point reaching 1 million people. I'm looking up, we got like barely 60 people watching this show now. Crazy. And on Twitter, it's no better. Interesting. So anyway, eventually, if it gets too bad, folks, we'll just turn this into a podcast and just be done with it, because I don't know exactly where. I can't tell if we're getting the views or if we're not getting the views, if we're shadow banned. I can't tell if any of that is going on, because this show should have been growing a long time ago. But I'll tell you another thing that's interesting. So let me get back to Breitbart. I went in and I discussed with them what I discuss on this show every day, which is that the reality of what's happening with these text messages with Strzok and Page and Comey and Mueller and Deputy Director McCabe and the Clintons and all these things, the State Department, the FBI, the DOJ, the DOD. How I explained yesterday, and I did it on Breitbart, this is just simply we're getting insight into how this deep state works, and we need to take note of that. Well, they wrote an article about it today on Breitbart, basically just spelled it or typed out the entire interview. That's what they do a lot of times. So strangely enough, I go over to Amazon, and now there may or may not be a correlation with this, but I'd been number one and not even close to being bumped down since this book released at December 12th. I was number one in martial arts of all the categories and a couple other categories, and was going between, depending on if I host Sean Hannity's show, the top 100 down to 3,000 on the bestseller list within there. So yesterday, I do this interview, and they write this story this morning, and I go check my my rank on Amazon, and it's now, and I know the books usually come out on Tuesday, not Thursday. Now it's it's back up to 4,600. It was down all the way down to 5,000. Nowhere even close to number one in any of the categories anymore. I find that very interesting, the timing of how that happened, because I know that the left hates Breitbart. They hate Breitbart. So whether or not it's a coincidence, it might be a coincidence, but I'm looking at the other books on here, and it wasn't like a lot of stuff moved except for my book, and it just tumbled down. And if we look at the past since December 12th, no real reason for that departure from the upper echelons of these categories. So I don't know. Is it another example of that? I keep trying to tell people the deep state isn't just it's not just the federal government. It's also state and local governments. They all work together. Wherever you see the Democrat and Republican establishments, you're going to have a deep state. And then also these private Silicon Valley companies, and even universities like Stanford, Harvard, Columbia, all these different quote-unquote Ivy League schools, they're all part of this. All of them. So anyway, when I go and I look at the headlines today, what am I looking at? I'm seeing that Uranium One is back in the mix. And let me pull this story up first. It says that, so there was an informant, there was an attorney that was on Sean Hannity's show there for a while, a couple times I saw her, and she had a source that she said was going to come forward that they were going to allow to come forward. What's going on here? Okay. And so eventually I guess this source did come forward, and his name is He was an informant. His name's Douglas Campbell. And he gave a 10-page statement to Senate Judiciary Committee, House Intelligence Committee, and House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, and was interviewed for several hours behind closed doors by committee staff. You notice that it wasn't the necessarily interviewed by the senators or the congressmen. It's always by the staff. Campbell said Russian nuclear officials told him at various times that they expected APCO to apply a portion of the $3 million annual lobbying fee it was receiving from the Russians to provide in-kind support to the Clinton Global Initiative. The contract called for 4 payments of $750,000 over 12 months. This is off of FoxNews.com. Campbell said in the statement, APCO, that's a lobbying firm, was expected to give assistance free of charge to the Clinton Global Initiative as part of their effort to create a favorable environment to ensure the Obama administration made affirmative decisions on everything from Uranium One to U.S.-Russia civilian nuclear cooperation agreement. Of course, APCO called Campbell's assertion false and unfounded. But this is very interesting, folks, because for what gives it credibility to me is that CNN and MSNBC and the leftists in this country, they can say whatever they want about Fox News. And, I've been open and honest about my disagreements with the way a lot of things that Fox News does and with their website sometimes. But one thing I can clearly say is that stories like this are very important, especially very important right now, because the more we see even hints of how the deep state is working and the connections that they have, the more of a spider web we're developing so we can see exactly who the players are and how it's working. And when we look at what happened with Uranium One, what we're seeing here is that we're seeing how the Clintons were maneuvering, which it is, again, is no big secret to us, but we're just getting a validated source that is saying that this is what was going on and how it was being done. But what's very interesting is, they can say all they want about Fox News. I'm going to put FoxNews.com up here for a second. Now, what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing equal parts of. Now they've gone to gossip stuff, which I don't agree with, but that's the Murdoch brothers. That's what they do about Kim Kardashian. I could care less about Kim Kardashian, but they do have the news is it is conservative, but it is more spread out where they actually have stories from both sides. They have opinion articles over here from people who are not conservative, but the story, for instance, what I was just telling you about Hillary Clinton, that was at the top, it's still here. If you go over to CNN.com, this is what's interesting. Not interesting, but this is what leads I think gives credibility to any story that is potentially true about the deep state. Is that you will not find that story that I just told you about Uranium One anywhere on this website. It's just nowhere to be found. And I looked and looked. Maybe it's buried in here somewhere. I looked and looked. But the point is, if you see a story on Fox News about something as important as Uranium One and a source that's coming out and saying that he has direct knowledge of these proceedings, that the Russians were reaching out to a lobbying firm so that they could give money and time and effort to the Clinton Foundation in order to gain favor with Hillary Clinton so they could get this Uranium One deal. So that is a story that's very important. Whether it ends up being true or not, it's definitely a story that should be reported, especially at this time when all this stuff is going on. But you look over here at CNN.com, and it's nowhere to be found. So when that happens, it almost assuredly means that there's partial truth to it. Secondly, when I look on here, almost this entire page is dedicated to something about Trump in a bad way. Almost the whole thing. and liberal causes. That's why I go there, I look at it, but most of the time you don't get anything from it. Another thing that you're not going to find over there. Democratic Senator Mark Warner texted with Russian oligarchs, and if you don't know what an oligarch is, it's basically a rich businessman who has political leanings. A Russian oligarch, a lobbyist, in effort to contact dossier author Christopher Steele. Now, here's what's interesting about this story. Several times, these are come from direct text messages with Senator Warner, who I am definitely not a fan of, and this Russian oligarch. Several times on these text messages, Warner is saying, be careful. Be careful. Let's keep this on the down. I'm trying to look at exact wording that he used. Let's see here. Well, anyway, take my word for it. It's on here. So basically what he's doing is, Mark Warner's doing, quote, we have so much to discuss. You need to be careful, but we can help our country. So they're always wrapping themselves in a cloak of heroism as though they're helping out the country in all these great and fantastic and magical ways, when in reality, they're either unknowing pawns of the globalist ideology of this world, the communist globalist ideology, or they're just that delusional where they think they're doing something good for the country. I think, quite frankly, I think that they're liars and they're always lying. So when they're reaching out to these people, they're saying, hey, listen, it's just all a lie. It's all an absolute lie with these people. The point is, again, he's saying Warner, he's talking to this oligarch, this rich businessman from Russia, and the conversation started March 16, 2017, and Waldron texted, Chris Steele asked me to call you. He's reaching out to Warner. Warner responded, we'll call tomorrow. Be careful. Constantly talking about being careful. What is he worried about? Is he worried about the political ramifications because he's talking to a Russian? Is he worried because he understands the reality of what Steele is up to, and he knows that eventually, if this goes down, he's going to get connected to it? What is he so worried about that they should be careful? So, anyway. There's really, when I'm looking at the news, of course, there's a lot in the news, but there's not a lot for me. There's a lot of stuff going on. Rand Paul is, I guess he's not happy with the budget bill, so he's trying to prevent the prevention of the shutdown. It looks like he's holding up the Senate action to prevent the shutdown because he's not happy with some stuff. I don't know. Listen. That's a tactic that they're now using. They'll filibuster, they'll talk, they'll try to keep these bills from going through so they can force in there things that they want. I don't trust any of them. I don't trust Rand Paul. I don't trust any of these people when they try to do or they try to act like they're doing what's best for the country. I just don't trust them. I don't trust them. Not really stunning news. It says stunning numbers. One major cities, it's an NYPD, police department in New York ignored more than 1,500 federal requests to detail immigrants last year, or to detain immigrants last year. They ignored that more than 1,500 requests to detain immigrants last year. That's just crazy. But that's de Blasio. He's a communist. Under New York City law, prisoners can only be handed over to ICE if they've been convicted of 170 crimes and federal officials present a warrant. Is that right? This is just madness. It's madness what's going on in this country. Anyway, listen, that's about all I'm going to do tonight. I'm gonna take it easy for the rest of the night. Get something to eat. I do not want to relapse. I don't want to go back into this flu. And that's what I've been hearing is people that didn't pay attention to this. They got the flu, they got better, and then they got hit again. So I'm going to make sure that that does not happen. So I think tomorrow we'll do the Friday night toast. And then hopefully this weekend I'll be able to fully recover. Let's go to the Truth Zone. I don't really know what I'm going to say. Let's do it. You know, there's just certain nights when doing this night and not day in and day out, there's days when I'm like, I either don't feel like doing it or there's just nothing there that I can talk about in great detail. As far as having people to interview, when I'm not feeling good, it's difficult to interview people. Now, I mean, if I had a real show, I'd have to do it, that's for sure, because I'd be getting paid to do it. But I think we've been doing this for long enough now where when we got to take a night off, we can take a night off. So remember, keep pushing the book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. If you haven't told 5 people today, tell 5 people about it. If you haven't given to the GoFundMe page, do it. And we're eventually going to get these books to the people who paid $50 or more. Trust me on that. I'm still waiting on Jim DeLong to give me the dates, which I'm hoping to get soon. And that's about it. Keep fighting the good fight. I just put a meme out a little while ago. Make sure you share it. It basically says what I always say on here, that with dialogue comes unity. With unity comes strength. And truth will be the sword that we conquer our enemies that domestically are trying to destroy this country. That's it, folks. Day in and day out, we're saying the same things. We're facing the same enemies. And we're failing for the same reasons. So, that's about it. Rico's over here walking around like a madman because he's stir crazy just like I am from being inside for so long. And anybody else, again, if you get the flu, with this flu, don't play around. Make sure that you take care of yourself. And I will see you all tomorrow for the Friday night toast. Rico will be there for sure. I'm Jonathan Gillum. This is The Experts. The truth has arrived. I'll see you tomorrow. He wanted to make an appearance. Here he is. The one, the only, Rico. And we out. 18-year-old. You'd never know. Except when he limps off. Then we'd know. All right, peace. I'm out of here. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.